Pastor Connie here, and I am excited to be in our 21 Days of Prayer initiative. This is something that we do twice a year, a time period in August before kind of the school year kicks off, and then also in January as the calendar year kicks off. And so we are in our fall 21 Days of Prayer. And it's just a time for us as a church to draw near to God and really listen into what God is trying to tell us. I know for me, just starting off in the 21 Days of Prayer, I've been really hearing from God when it comes to my social media usage. It seems like every time I go on there, I'm being asked to be outraged about something, whatever the news story is of the day. You have to be outraged one way or the other. And I'm just tired. My soul is tired from all of that anger. And so I'm taking a break from all of that so that way I can spend more time paying attention to God and to his voice and what he has for me. And I'm hoping that I receive his peace by limiting some of those voices that are trying to steal my peace in my life. Also, going through the story of Elisha together. If you haven't picked up our prayer guide, I would really encourage you to do that. It's on the church app. We also have hard copies available at the connection table, and just pick one up every day. It has a little snippet of Elijah's story and also a prayer prompt of how you can pray. So if you're coming in late to the game, it's totally okay. You can join at whatever day that you would like. And we know the actual 21 days that we're together are not, there's nothing magical about that. So start wherever you can and really hear from God. I'm looking forward to seeing what God does through our church through this. Now you'll find the story of Elijah in 1st and 2nd Kings, and a little bit of an overview about his story. Elijah was a prophet, which prophets were people who heard from God and spoke on behalf of God for the people, particularly the people of Israel. And the people of Israel found themselves in a really unique time when Elijah comes along. They had demanded for a king. They wanted to be like all of the other nations, and they demand a king. And now they have gone through a series of kings, and they're in a really bad spot where, just as the Lord had kind of warned them that a king was not going to be what they wanted, that God himself wanted to be their king, and these earthly kings would come along and they would oppress them. They would turn their hearts from God and towards other gods. And that is exactly where Elisha the prophet finds himself, having to minister to people whose hearts had turned from God and turned to other things. And I think we have a lot that we can learn through Elijah's story. Picking up in 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 1 says, Now Elijah, who was from Tishbe in Gilead, told King Ahab, As surely as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, the God I serve, there will be no dew or rain during the next few years until I give the word. And what we find there is that the Lord provides discipline. He calls out their sin and says, your hearts have turned from me. And so I have to provide this discipline that's going to cause you to turn back to me. And I, for 7 years, lived in Southern Oregon. And Southern Oregon during the summer is a place that does not get much rain. Usually you'll get some rain at the end of May, and then you don't see rain again until the beginning of October. Just those several months, it just gets so dry. And even if you see maybe a thunderstorm off in the distance, it's not something that you celebrate. It's something that you even fear a little bit, because that lightning strike to the dry, barren grass is going to cause a wildfire, and that wildfire will create all kinds of devastation. And my parents from Illinois came once to visit me, and they're like, does it ever rain here? And I was like, in August? No, it doesn't rain here. I can only imagine what it must have felt like. That was only a few months. What it must have felt like in Elisha's day to go 2 years, not just without rain, but without even any morning dew. There's a dry and barren land that Elijah is living into or stepping into, where only God is going to be able to provide for the people's needs, because no amount of farming or anything they do is going to cause them to have what they need. Only God. And the story goes on. It says, then the Lord said to Elijah, go to the east and hide by the Kerith brook near where it enters the Jordan River. Drink from the brook and eat what the ravens bring you, for I have commanded them to bring you food. It reminds me of the story of Jesus when he's calms the sea, and the disciples say, even the wind and the waves obey him. And we see that in Jesus, we see that in God here in First Kings, that even the ravens obey him. And God speaks to the ravens because he is the creator of the ravens. He is the creator of all things. And he says, provide for my servant Elijah, sitting by a brook, drinking its water, and being fed by the ravens. And what we learn there is that the Lord provides what we need. Even when we find ourselves in times of discipline, the Lord provides what we need. Story goes on, says Elijah did as the Lord told him and camped beside Kerith Brook, east of the Jordan. The ravens brought him bread and meat each morning and evening and drank from the brook. But after a while, the brook dried up, for there was no rainfall anywhere in the land. The Lord provides what we need, and the Lord always provides his word. His word is always true. And so Elijah finds exactly what he needs, exactly as God had told him to. And even in times of discipline, even in desert, dry, weary, tired times, we can rest knowing that the Lord will provide, maybe not all that we want, but exactly what we need, and his word is true. You're going to see another story as you go into your groups today of God continuing to provide for Elijah and for those around him. I pray that as you go in your groups, don't be afraid to talk about the miracles that where you have seen God provide, because your story of your miracle can be the encouragement that somebody who might be a little tired and a little weary needs to hear. Let's remind ourselves today that God provides, he loves you, and we can be known for love. Have a great week.